One signature, one decision, one moment of trust. That's all it took to erase a decade of sacrifice. And the worst part? He never saw it coming until everything was gone.
It was a Thursday afternoon when Raymond signed the papers. He sat in a polished office across from a man in an expensive suit who smiled like they were old friends. The pen felt heavy in his hand, but not as heavy as the silence that would follow years later. Raymond was 43, a project manager at a construction firm. 22 years of steady work. He'd done everything right. Maxed his 401k, avoided credit card debt, drove the same truck for 11 years. His savings account held $147,000. Not rich, but safe, secure, comfortable. His brother-in-law had introduced him to an incredible opportunity, a real estate investment group promising 18% annual returns, guaranteed. The brochure was glossy, the testimonials glowed. Other family members had already invested. "You're leaving money on the table," his brother-in-law said. "Your savings account earns, what, 2%? This is how wealthy people actually build wealth." Raymond felt the familiar pressure, the fear of missing out, the embarrassment of being the cautious one while others got ahead. So he signed. He moved $120,000, 10 years of disciplined saving, into the investment. 18 months later, the office was empty. The fund manager had vanished. The money was gone. All of it. $120,000, a decade of his life, evaporated. But here's what nobody tells you about financial devastation. The money disappearing is just the beginning. What happened to Raymond over the next 3 years destroyed far more than his bank account. And the most disturbing part? There were exactly 7 warning signs he missed, signs that seem obvious now, but were invisible to him then. Before I show you what those signs were, you need to understand what this kind of loss actually costs, because the real price goes far deeper than dollars.
Let's do the math that kept Raymond awake at night. $120,000 lost at age 43. If that money had simply stayed in a basic index fund, earning 8% average returns, by retirement at 65, it would have grown to $587,000. He didn't lose $120,000. He lost over $500,000 of his future. But the financial calculation? That's the obvious cost. What nobody prepares you for are the invisible costs that compound just as ruthlessly. Raymond's wife, Patricia, found out 3 weeks after he did. He'd been hiding it, hoping somehow the situation would reverse, hoping he'd wake up and it would be a nightmare. When he finally told her, she didn't yell, didn't cry. She just went quiet. That silence lasted months. Their daughter's college fund had been next on the list to grow. Now Raymond was calculating whether she'd need student loans, whether the retirement they'd planned would ever happen, whether he'd be working until 75. His health collapsed. Blood pressure spiked. He gained 30 pounds, stopped sleeping, started drinking 2 whiskeys every night to quiet his mind. The shame was suffocating. Raymond avoided family gatherings. His brother-in-law, who'd also lost everything, couldn't look at him. Holiday dinners became torture. At work, his performance slipped. He was physically present, but mentally drowning. His boss noticed. A promotion he'd been expecting went to someone else. Here's what the studies show. Financial trauma triggers the same brain responses as physical threat. Cortisol floods your system. Decision-making deteriorates. Relationships strain under pressure you can't articulate. I spoke with someone who went through something similar. His name was Warren. Lost $80,000 to a business partner who disappeared. He told me something haunting. The money hurt, but watching my wife look at me differently, that's what broke me. I wasn't her protector anymore. I was the man who'd endangered our family. 2 years later, Warren and his wife separated. He's convinced the financial loss was the crack that eventually shattered everything. This is the cost nobody calculates, the cost that doesn't appear on any statement. But here's where things get interesting. What if I told you the financial mistake wasn't actually the real problem?
Stories like Raymond's are why this channel exists. If you want to understand the mental traps that catch smart people and learn how to protect yourself before disaster strikes, make sure you're subscribed. What I'm about to reveal next could save you years of pain. Raymond wasn't stupid. He wasn't reckless. He was actually more careful than most. So how did this happen? There's a term psychologists use, affinity fraud. It means scams that exploit trusted relationships, your church, your workplace, your family. The person introducing the opportunity isn't a stranger. They're someone you trust. This is why Raymond's guard was down. His brother-in-law wasn't trying to hurt him. He was also a victim, genuinely believing in the investment. But trust was just the first trap. The second was something called social proof. Other family members had invested. They were excited, talking about returns. Raymond felt like the outsider for hesitating. Here's an insider truth most people never learn. Legitimate investments rarely need aggressive selling. They don't require urgency. They don't make you feel foolish for asking questions. The moment someone says, "This opportunity won't last," or "everyone else already sees it," that's a red flag, not a green light. The third trap was present bias. Raymond's brain weighted the immediate reward, getting rich, impressing family, feeling smart, far more heavily than the distant risk, losing everything. This is hardwired. Our ancestors needed to grab food now, not plan for winter. That same wiring makes us vulnerable to promises of quick returns. Let me tell you about Franklin. He was a mechanical engineer, 47 years old. His mistake wasn't an investment scam. It was something more common. Franklin co-signed a business loan for his best friend of 20 years. The business failed. Franklin's friend declared bankruptcy. The bank came after Franklin for the full amount, $92,000. "He was my best friend," Franklin told me. "I'd known him longer than I'd known my wife. How do you say no?" 3 years later, Franklin is still paying off that debt. His friend barely speaks to him now, too ashamed. The pattern is identical. Trusted relationship, emotional pressure, logic overridden by loyalty. Here's what neither Raymond nor Franklin understood. Saying no to a bad financial decision isn't betrayal, it's wisdom. And anyone who makes you feel guilty for protecting your family isn't protecting you. But understanding psychology only helps if you can recognize the warning signs in real time. There were 7 specific red flags Raymond missed, 7 moments where the right question could have saved everything. This is information most people never receive until it's too late.
Warning sign number 1. Returns that beat the market consistently. The investment promised 18% guaranteed returns. The stock market averages 10% with significant volatility. Anything promising guaranteed double-digit returns is either lying or taking enormous hidden risks. Warning sign number 2. Urgency and limited availability. The fund is closing to new investors next month. This creates artificial pressure. Real opportunities don't disappear because you took a week to research. Warning sign number 3. Complexity you can't explain. Raymond couldn't clearly explain how the investment actually made money. He trusted the jargon. Rule of thumb, if you can't explain it to a 12-year-old, you don't understand it well enough to invest. Warning sign number 4. Unregistered or licensed operators. Raymond never verified whether the fund manager was registered with the SEC. A 5-minute search would have revealed nothing. No registration, no history, no accountability. Warning sign number 5. Recruiting incentives. His brother-in-law received a bonus for bringing new investors. When the person introducing you benefits from your investment, their advice is compromised, period. Warning sign number 6. Difficulty withdrawing funds.
Early investors who tried to withdraw faced processing delays and complicated requirements. Legitimate investments have clear, simple exit processes. Warning sign number 7. No independent verification. The account statements came from the fund itself. No third-party custodian, no independent auditing. Raymond was trusting the fox to guard the henhouse. Here's a tool I wish Raymond had. Before any investment over $5,000, run the overnight test. Write down the investment details, sleep on it. The next morning, research the company, the person, and the claims independently. If you can't verify everything, walk away. Now, most financial advice videos would end here. Warning given, lesson learned. But I want to show you something more valuable, because Raymond's story didn't end in devastation. What happened in year 4 changed everything. And the strategy he discovered? It's something most financial advisors will never tell you.
4 years after losing everything, Raymond is in a better financial position than before the loss. Not because he got lucky, because devastation forced him to learn what he should have known all along. First, he diversified ruthlessly. His money now sits across 7 different places: index funds, bonds, high-yield savings, real estate investment trusts, and his 401k. No single failure can destroy him again. Second, he built what he calls his skepticism muscle. Every opportunity now faces 20 questions before consideration. He's become the person others consult before making major financial decisions. Third, and this surprised me, he started teaching. Raymond now runs a monthly workshop at his church about financial fraud. He uses his story, the shame transformed into purpose. His marriage recovered. Patricia told him later that watching him rebuild with humility brought her closer than his original success ever had. His daughter graduated without debt. It took longer, required community college first, but they made it work together as a family. Raymond still thinks about those lost years, but he reframes it now. I paid $120,000 for an education that made me financially unbreakable. Expensive tuition, but I graduated. The lesson isn't never trust anyone. It's verify everything, especially from people you trust. It's understand before you invest. It's build redundancy so no single mistake can destroy you.
You don't have to lose a decade of savings to learn this lesson. The warning signs are consistent. The psychology is predictable. The prevention is simple. Slow down, verify independently, and never let emotion override investigation. Every financial decision over $1,000 deserves research. Every opportunity that pressures you deserves suspicion. Every trusted relationship still requires verification. Start today. Look at where your money sits. Ask yourself, if one of these fails, am I protected? If you can't answer confidently, you have work to do. Raymond's story could easily be yours. The question is whether you'll learn from his tuition or pay your own. If this opened your eyes to dangers you hadn't considered, subscribe now. I break down the financial traps designed to catch smart people and the strategies to protect yourself and your family. Hit subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it before they learn the hard way. The signature that costs you everything takes 3 seconds to write. The research that saves you takes 3 hours.